all, and welcome back to another thrilling episode of Off the Dome. I'm your humble interviewer, Jordan Brown. With me for the very first time is Rick Perry. Say hi, Rick Perry.
Hi, Rick Perry.
Hi, thank you so much for joining me. This is so exciting. I wanted to start. I have a million questions for you, but I wanted to start with: we are actually co-workers, very technically, in that you and I both have credits in Plan C, the documentary.
This is true.
Which I believe is currently in limited releases in theaters. If you're unaware of what Plan C is, it's going to a million times more important than anything I'm going to ask Rick about today. But an incredibly important documentary that your wife Meredith edited, and I mean, I've seen it. A grueling amount of editing went into like blurring out, identifying information. Really important. If you haven't seen it, you should go see it.
Yes, go check it out.
Yeah, I also add it was at South by Southwest. I got to see it, and you posted on Instagram like, "Hey, this is when the times are," and it was on my radar, but I didn't have the times figured out. So I saw that and I was like, "Oh, great!" And I went, and someone was handing out pins outside of the theater, and I walked up and got like a Plan C pin, and I said, "Are you with the movie?" And they're like, "My sister was in production or something." I said, "How did you hear about it?" And I said, "Oh, Rick Perry posted on Instagram." And the shock and horror as they like recoiled away from me, I was like, "No, not that Rick Perry, not that Rick Perry." The good one told me.
Yeah, you have to be specific, especially in Texas.
Yes.
I tell people I'm the slightly less evil Rick Perry from Texas.
So. But yes, so go see Plan C. I have a million questions about.
Yeah,
Burrow
and also,
Zen.
hey, thanks for going to see the movie and for promoting stuff like that. We really appreciate that. It is a really important cause.
Incredibly important. I'm very cognizant of that. I'm going to put this on TikTok, so maybe like I'll put some words on the screen right here of what Plan C is about, and then maybe the algorithm won't crush this video because there are specific words on TikTok that that it does not care for. But yeah, before we jump into Burrow's End, I wanted to. So first of all, if you're unfamiliar with how Rick Perry came to Dimension 20. I've heard him tell that interview on several podcasts. You should go listen to other podcasts with Rick Perry because I'm not going to ask him that question. I want the juicy details on that bear and everything else that you do there. But a thing I haven't heard you talk about is the A Crown of Candy minifigure auction. Just in terms of what it was like, I feel like it has to have been an amazing experience to see that reaction to those minis, especially to the Cowroy Collective, to everyone that sort of like, so much money raised for such good causes, as well as for your own, like being able to continue to work. What was that like in sort of real time?
Yeah, the minis auction was wild. From the very beginning of it, it's sort of I'm always excited to shine light on like the work that we do and the work that our team of super talented people does, so that aspect always appealed to me. But there's also something that was like, I don't know, are these things that we have made worthy of selling? Like who would be interested in this? Or is this, even like getting a slight twinge of like, is this like a cash grab? What's going on here? Why just as an artist wrestling with that stuff. And after kind of thinking about it, I realized like, when we make this show in particular and we start in this huge development process and create this world and then the players create characters and then we design them and then we build them and then they get handled by the players and then they get handled again by the team that shoots the close-ups of them and then they go into storage. That whole creation process is a very ethereal kind of thing that there's not a lot of at the end. All we have is the show, right? It's this sort of like huge amount of effort and this huge journey of different creative people that any particular mini goes through, and at the end there's kind of nothing left except for the show. And then I realized that the miniatures actually, they are these teeny tiny physical manifestations of that journey. They're like a little magic crystal that represents that entire journey, and they are really special. And also people love to buy props apparently and stuff. And so very surprised that they went for so much, and that people were so passionate about them. And thrilled. It feels really good. Also, we do a thing where we give like 25% to a charity every time, which feels really good. They've been Dropout's done a really good job of choosing like very worthy causes, auction to auction. So
Yeah. I remember that first the Crown of Candy auction that, suddenly the newsletter was like, hey, we've actually pulled back several minis. We're just going to give them away for free. I felt like a very like, hey, we didn't realize what was going to happen. We've raised more money than we expected. I heard that you built a second Calroy to send to the collective because they did not win the auction. Is that true?
yeah, so there was a, for people that know, there was a Calroy collective of fans who very passionate about Calroy in different kinds of ways, and and they got together and created like a pool of money to try to win the Calroy Mini, and they were defeated in the end. But I believe they took that money and donated it to a cause, which was awesome, and so I think Dropout wanted to recognize that, and so they asked us to create a second Calroy Mini, which Shane Brockway did, the same person who made the first one,
Yeah.
and then that went to the Calroy Collective, and now I think
Awesome.
you can see it on Twitter. It's like Calroy on tour or something. Where's
Yeah, yeah,
Calroy or something?
because he gets to travel the world now
Yeah,
to
yeah,
visit his collective.
yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, I reached out to Shane, hoping to talk to him as well about like
Cool.
mini creation because this is all so I just so it's such incredible detailed work, and I think drives so much of what the community really loves is not just that it's great storytelling, but it's such immersive and detailed
Mm.
storytelling. And sort of in that vein, Polly the Bear. Can you talk me through like I think like first meetings with Abria? I assume it's you, Abria, Carlos,
Mm.
Casey. I don't know if anyone else is in the room, but like just like conception through production, and then we can get into like cast reaction and everything after. But just like what were those initial meetings like?
Yeah, well, we usually have a kind of a, especially on a mini season, we usually have a significant development period where we have these sort of hour to 2 hour long meetings once or twice a day for a week or two, and we sort of try to kind of beat out what the whole season is, where these battles, like if we know, okay, we think it's three battles and they probably happen in these episodes, and maybe we have a strong idea for one, but not a complete idea for the others or whatever. We sort of work all that out, and it also is where we do a lot of world building, and it's just a big development period for this season. And uh, this particular battle, as DMs often do, usually Brennan or Bria will arrive with at least one specific battle already sort of conceptualized, because it's maybe it's something that they sort of built the season around, or it's like a pillar of their kind of vision or whatever. But yeah, I don't know if we can curse on this, but
You
Abrius.
absolutely can.
Okay, okay, cool. Abrius said, "Yeah, look, the first battle is inside a giant fucking bear," and so I wrote down "giant fucking bear battle 01," and that what's remained the title of the battle through all of my spreadsheets and things, because we want to be true to that vision. Yeah, and so I was like, okay, what does that mean? Because that's a big concept, and yeah, so we went through a lot of kind of development to sort of figure out how to make that a reality, both and try to have world logic and game logic, and not be able to be played at the table, and not block the cast, and all these things. So there was a lot of kind of back and forth as we got to the details of this. It's like, well, what are these ground squirrels doing in the bear, and how did they get there, and what is how is the bear still alive, and like to what extent, and is the bear aware, and all these kind of things. Like the scale of the bear is actually very big. That bear is like about the size of like a VW bug, or VW van in world scale. So it's like bigger than a cave bear. So that was a question mark for me. I was like, okay, but like, why is this bear so big? And Bria's like, well, this world there's things that are different. And, animals that have changed and are different in this world, and this is one way that they could be different. So I was like, okay, you know.
A great like immediate jump of like, this world's different. It got big bears. Yeah, I know. Kelsey said that you all referred to it as the bear because it
Yes.
was so squat, that it was a bear turtle
Yes.
combination, which I
Yeah. Yeah.
assume is a lot of the like thought of like, we need to make it squat so that it isn't like this isn't what we see of it. We're not getting like Wilson from Home Improvement level
Yeah.
cast member views on the camera.
It
Um,
is always a design concern. Is like, we have this set that's 360 degrees set, and so you can design something to where like, okay, this is not going to be in frame for this shot, but then when you flip over to the other shot, it's in front of somebody's face. So you have to try to be conscious of that. And we knew that bear was going to be quite big until it got opened. So that was like, it was like, look, it's going to be, you're going to put people in apple boxes for a little bit until the bear gets opened, and then it'll be fine.
yeah. I mean, Erica, at the very least, they climbed on the table, so that was probably helpful for shooting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Not helpful for my heart when I was like, oh, don't climb on the table.
So I guess like jumping to that though, like that moment, how much of that is like, don't climb on the table, and also we've gotten the biggest reaction you can get from Erica imaginable. I mean, that's got to feel great.
I'm not gonna lie, it does. Those moments of the cast reacting to a battle map in general are just like the best moments of our job. I think maybe second best is the audience reacting, but um, we put a lot into it, and we really put love into the things that we create, and so and we're making them with that exact moment in mind. We're making these sort of toys for these very skilled improvisers who in this whole setup to embrace and dance with and create something. And yeah, so when we're shooting those moments when the bear came out, I'm sitting there at Video Village, like both, trying not to freak out and be worried that it's going to break somehow on camera or fall apart or whatever, and completely over the moon with joy about seeing the light and the disgust in everyone's face as it comes out.
Yeah, for those who don't know, Video Village, just like a set of monitors just off set so that you can see. You are one of the people who I presume is almost always on set, as like a lot of the people, their process is done once like Mini is made, but you are staying on set as a production designer. Let's see, your title's creative producer, co-executive producer, and production designer. So of course you're on
Yes,
set.
I just keep collecting titles.
Yeah, I
So
mean, as you should. Yeah, talking to Kelsey, that one of the things that you all had learned was the mechanism that was making the beating heart had a time frame in which it could be no longer disconnected. Because I think the first time you opened it for Abria, the heart didn't beat, which. I mean, I assume there were other concerns of like the flaps opening, the liver coming, all of those things, like that everything has to be perfect day of. How much like prep goes into like, how many times did you take the spinal cord out?
yeah, well, I mean, that's kind of the thing of film and TV production is like everything sort of has to be bulletproof and on time and ready to go. And when you have a crew assembled and cameras rolling and lights are on and makeup is done and everything, like they're not gonna, there's no bandwidth really to wait for a mistake or it's just kind of the way that it is. So hence that thing I was saying of the great amount of like anxiety that also comes in. But yeah, that battle map was maybe the most certainly the most disgusting and visceral, but probably also the most maybe the most complex battle map that we've ever done in terms of having a lot of dynamic, like moving elements, in terms of essentially it's a hollow shape, right? And even if you take the top off, it's kind of a bowl. And if you think about the cast where they sit in their vantage points, like we really try not to have the cast standing up or leaning too far over. So thinking about how to open the bear up and allow the cast to be able to see as much as possible from their viewpoints, thinking about, well, how many ribs can we get in there, because people's hands have to be able to get, like all of these things are practical concerns. Thinking about how are the minis going to sit, how would you get from the liver up to the spine, what's the path of egress through the intestines, and like, it's like a zillion things that we have to consider to build it. So
And Kelsey mentioned that you were one of the guiding voices of "That's not what the inside of an animal looks like." uh,
yes, it's true. Um,
like, did you want how close to the vision of what you wanted did you get before you were like, maybe we shouldn't make it that fleshy
yeah,
inside?
yeah,
Like,
yeah. Yeah, we got pretty close, I think. Yeah, I grew up in rural Texas and hunting and fishing. I have cleaned many and skinned many animals, including deer and things like that. Never a bear, but so I know kind of what that looks like a bit on the inside, and uh, that was informative. And I wanted it to have that kind of authentic power, and feel like we were seeing something um, that maybe people haven't seen before. I don't know, but I
I mean,
find
I
like
can
kind of
I can tell you with certainty people had not seen it before.
I find like, there is power when you sort of like creative, like, or artistic power or whatever, when you sort of like tunnel into areas and find like kind of truth, or something that resonates with you. So I don't know. That was one of our North Stars. And but there was a point where we were like, wow, this is really like, we have kind of got it. We've kind of made this thing gross and real, and now we've done it. We don't have to go do anymore, And actually, I told Carlos and Abria independently and together that like we really should let the cast know that like this has a bit of a horror vibe, and so that they are ready for it. And they're very busy, and that it took them, it took a couple of days before there was no action on it. And then when they saw the set, there was immediate action on
Immediate emails
that.
sent of
Yes.
yeah. I think I told you, like, I paused the episode mid episode to like DM you for the first time to be like, hey, can you come talk to me about this? Because it was I mean, the newsletter said it was lots of body horror, capital lots. Carlos commented on one of my videos about it that it was next level, and they were not wrong. It was um, deeply upsetting, but in the best possible way.
Good, good.
Yes. And I know Abria has talked about like the arms race inside the dome of like the GMs that come in and like what they can do. And I mean, I don't want to say like Abria won, but it certainly set a new bar.
Yes,
With not
absolutely.
only like that, but the projection of like
Hmm.
interior bear fight, like all of that felt. And Kelsey mentioned this in yesterday when I talked to her, that like Brennan's face was like, oh, we're doing this, huh? Bria has said like, I just keep asking for things and no one has told me no yet. And I mean, I just we're in the community at large is in awe of what you all have pulled off.
Well, thank you for the kind words. Yeah, I mean, credit to Abria. Abria just shows up and is like, "Hey, let's do this," and I'm like, "Okay." And then I tell the powers that be, like, "Hey, this is what we're gonna do. This is gonna cost this amount, and be this." And they say, "Okay." And it has created a bit of an arm race. I think, like, by far this season, the production uh, level, quality level, both on the miniatures and terrain, and on the projections, and on just the whole package, even the trailer. I think this may be our best trailer we've ever done. The bar has been raised, and I will say we continued that level of things all the way through Fantasy High junior year. So
Yeah.
there's more to come.
Yeah, I am. We're all excited about junior year, but yes, yeah. I mean, this is not a spoiler because it was in the preview from episode 3 to episode 4. But we have like the DM screen gets some changes next week. Like there's blue light that's incorporated into the DM screen. It's really exciting to see. Like even that has now evolved to interactivity that we haven't seen before.
Yeah. Yeah, we're kind of like just trying to do it, I mean, that's our thing. We enjoy making this show, but also like we don't want to repeat ourselves and do the same thing twice, and like because it's just not fun, and we're always trying to like push a little bit and do things a little bit differently, or build upon what we've done before, and I think we did a good job this season. So
Yeah. Yeah, you also seem to have collected a group of wildly talented people and have like presumably I assume like Sam Reich is also behind a lot of like pay them whatever they want to keep them, because everyone seems to have stayed. And like I just credit to you and like building that team that seems really so that, that they're posting those like cool behind the scenes
mm,
stuff. They seem to care a lot, not just like about the work, but then like even showing off their work, which
yeah,
is I
yeah.
think incredibly cool for the community at large to get to see.
So yeah, totally. It's true. We from very scrappy beginnings in my garage, to with like people that I could who were talented model makers and stuff, but they were people that I could convince to come work on this new show that was a Dungeons and Dragons show, and years of that kind of and we've grown to where the kind of rates and stuff that we offer are competitive with conventional Hollywood model making rates, and so we are now working with people who when they're not working on our show go and build stuff for Star Wars or whatever, build models for that. So the skill level is way up there, and then also just I think our show is really fun to work on, like and that goes to I think all the way up to the GMs and the producers, the whole team, the director, especially Michael Schaubach. Like we have cultivated and work hard to maintain a very good type of safe and fun and just a good space to work, which is not always the case in Hollywood. So I think people have fun. I hope they have fun working on our crew. And also, like the show has grown and continues to grow. So, listen, there's no better feeling for a creative person than to know that your work like connects to people, and those people are excited enough to tell you that they like it, or to ask you to do an interview. I mean, honestly, it's so validating and feels so good as a creative person. So thank you, and thanks to people that watch it, because that keeps people coming back to my team. That sort of thing, like that connection and that just sense of being seen is awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I will never stop singing your praises of just like, and everyone on your team as well. But like
Thank you.
top down of just like, I mean, every season feels special. I mean, especially when you get those moments of planning for the chaos. I don't know, like we've got to add 6 buttholes to this mini, or we need an entirely new not familiar. I don't know, a bush cat that we didn't have. We need it in 2 days or whatever. Like that feels. I mean, I know it's the devil works hard, D20 works harder. Like that feels so true of just like things that are said are suddenly on screen in like the most incredible way. So
Well,
yeah, I
thank
think
you.
but I know speaking of planning for chaos, I know you were one of the people that sort of because presumably you have like the most D&D experience on the team from what I gather.
Maybe so. I think I mean, almost not everybody plays, but a lot of them do. A lot of them are kind of new-ish, but like Shane Brockway, I think he definitely has a deeper wargaming and maybe possibly D&D experience. But anyway, the levels vary. But yes, I play D&D.
Yes, yeah, but so, like using that thought process, I think you kind of talked about like path from like liver to spine or whatever. Like planning for the chaos, especially Intrepid Heroes, of like we're gonna build a battle map. What buck wild thing is Emily Axford and Allie Beardsley gonna do that like breaks my battle map? Like how do you even attempt to enter into the minds of those lunatics?
Well, I try not to because there lies madness, and but truly, you can't really predict exactly what's going to happen. When we go to design a battle map, like the bear, for instance, um, I'm certainly thinking about movement and like what's the objective here? Who are the antagonists or the bad guys or whatever? Who are they fighting? Are there things that are dynamic, things that are going to change, like terrain things or conditions that are going to change over the course of the battle? Um, and so kind of trying to crystallize what that is like conceptually, and for instance in this battle, and then the other thing is like if you have a puzzle that's like, okay, some of the players have been kidnapped by these, or some NPC have been kidnapped by these little squirrels, and they've taken them inside this essentially, which is like a fortress of theirs, that has several layers to it. Like it has this inner sanctum, which is this liver. The fortress is moving. The fortress has its own kind of layer actions, which is the bear roaring. Um, you have these kind of like flagship or kind of hero elements, like the beating heart, and also there's the bear's brain and the fact that it is this living fortress. So what are the like victory conditions here, and how do we so if we defeat all of the squirrels, that's one way to do it. Um, but also you could attack the heart and stop the beast's heart and kill it, or you could attack the brain and kill it. So also there was the possibility of someone going through the bear's butthole. It didn't happen, but that was something that we planned for. So we create a lot of
Missed
like
opportunities.
a missed opportunity for sure. But we create a lot of these. We create the ideas to, if you have a puzzle that is like the water's rising every round or whatever, don't just have one way that the puzzle can be solved. Create more than one solution, and allow the players it can feel like, and the DM can be like, can it in the game, in the battle, decide, okay, there's only one solution. But leave that up to the moment, and so that's the thing we kind of try to do, is build these puzzles, these battles in a way that can be done in like 3 or 4 or 5 rounds, have all these interesting elements, but that also have a lot of like kind of extra doors that you could sort of paint on and be like, oh, we're going through there, in order to allow the story to follow, to allow the action to follow the story of the battle.
Yeah. Also, it makes me feel very good that you also do this when you describe the beating heart. Like I can't help myself, like Indiana Jones 2 style of just like this
Yeah,
is I
this is
have to
true.
like I have like my hand just like every time I've talked about it like that is just the natural thing.
Very Temple
Um,
of Doom heart.
yes, yes. Um, we've talked a little bit about cast reaction at the table, but sort of also an adventuring party. I know it's not the first time you have been called nasty by folks at the table. Does that ever? I mean, that has to feel good every time that there is like the big like we're gonna read a list of names and just like yell at you for how gross and wonderful all of this was.
Well, it does. But also, like, I love when the rest of the crew gets called out, and like, I feel like they say my name a lot, and I'm very grateful. But there's a lot of people that do it, so it feels good when they acknowledge other people. And honestly, the best dopamine hits is really the way that they react to it, in their faces and the immediate reaction. So I don't know. It's a lot of fun. We make a fun show. Feel lucky to get to do it.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I understandable and agreed. um, yeah, I was curious. Like the cast reactions are obviously like very good, and like you said, like there are a lot of people who put their hands on all of these process from production all the way to like post
Hmm.
shoots of the close-ups. I was wondering how much, as you're collecting all of these titles, how much hands-on are you still in all of this process?
Well, at this point, it's mainly I come on very early, and so it's like part of the development, and then the design and build. in the shoot, and then at that point, I kind of am hands off. Sometimes I'm on to the next season by then already. That is actually already starting to be spun up in the background. Um, and so we have a really talented sort of mini, we call it our mini shoot. So it's like a team of people that like KC and Raven and Jesse and Allison Gondek worked on the Fantasy High one, who have a great experience and expertise now in having done so many seasons of working closely with Schwabach and Kevin Stiller, our DP, about how to set up shots. So they have such a shorthand and spell effects and tricks and things like that. So I'm very happy to step back and let other people who have worked on the whole season and also know that process kind of come in and make our stuff look so good. They really kill
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, I mean, KC and Raven, that opening of the bear, like that sort of pan in opening of the bear. So such a incredible shot to really add to that moment.
Yeah. The camera work is amazing, and even the lighting that they do, that the team does, like it's a whole different set of skills to shoot miniatures like that, and they're very passionate about it, and they are always building like new tools and tricks and things. Is very impressive.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that is one of the things that is so great to get to, like, it becomes much more dynamic. The editing of the show, sound effects, all those things add to such a like complete experience, which is wonderful. And I know we've talked a little bit about like fan community, but what is like how does it feel like getting such a strong reaction from fan community? I'm sure is, like you said, like number 2 on your list of like things, but like what is it like? I know you've worked on a lot of other projects, and like you said, like people are off like working on Star Wars and things that like then come back, like huge fan communities. How does like sort of D20 feel? Does it feel different in terms of other communities that you've experienced, or?
Yeah, well, I mean, it feels great to get recognized. As I said, it feels really good, and also just to know, like, okay, we did a good job. We got them like that. Because we work for months, in a kind of secrecy or whatever, and even from the players, and we think we're doing a good job, and we're really giving it everything. But until it gets released and goes out there, you sort of don't really know. So that moment feels great. Uh, and I've never worked on a show that had a fan base like Dimension 20. This fan base is incredible, and both in like the passion and the like connectedness to the material, the way that people come on Twitter and tell me that the thing I made was beautiful or scared them or whatever, moved them in some way, but also just like the Discord, like the way that the fans are just nice to each other and to us, and with the material, and they're sensitive, and it just feels very special, and it's not lost on us as far as the production team and the cast. I think we're all very aware of like what a special group our fans are. So we love you.
Oh, I can tell you the love is like felt very much reciprocally. That like to the point that I know. I don't know about with like your team necessarily, but I know a lot of the fan base develops very parasocial relationships with cast, especially. And
Yeah.
my son is about to run
Oh.
into the room. And was corralled back. A short interruption by a 2-year-old.
Nice.
The joys of working from home.
Yes.
I know, like, as sort of does the parasocial relationship do you feel like it extends to you and crew as well? That sort of some of us in the fan community like exude onto the players. I mean, obviously, I DM'd you to ask for an interview, so it's...
Yeah. I mean, I think a bit. I mean, I think that's also one of the neat things about our show is that it's a platform for creative people, not just cast members, to really do stuff. You know, it's a platform for model makers, and I think that's part of why people are interested in coming back and working on the show to get to like. There's just so much stuff that we got to make that like people get opportunities to sort of just jam out on a particular thing, a bear set or a heart or whatever, you know, and uh, as projections and sound and illustrations, and because of those are elements of it, and maybe because of the type of show it is, I'm not really sure, but it creates this situation where those creators get to be in the spotlight a little bit, get to be known. You know, it's not just this monolithic show. It's like, no, this is made by individual people, and they have individual things that they have contributed to here. So I think we all feel really good about that because, you know, Hollywood movies don't really care about that, or you know, bigger shows, you know, that they don't necessarily single out the illustrator or whatever. You know, it's just you're just supposed to watch this thing and have this monolithic experience. But our show was made by people,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the things that really like helps drive the community interaction is people like Shane Brockway is going to show Biscuits and Gravy Man at the end of like a season, and like getting to see those kinds of behind the scenes feels very special for the community, and I think makes it feels like we're connecting with the content even more than like anywhere else. That this is the creator of this particular thing gets to show off, like Kelsey Hunter gets to show off, like, hey, I made this bear heart beat, and like here's the
yeah,
Amazon porch ornament I used to do it.
right, yeah. There's an interesting thing where it's an improvised show, so there's that parasocial thing where the cast, you know, it feels very like immediate, and like that you're there, or that you're seeing it created, you're seeing the act of creation in front of you. And I think that other elements of our show sort of have that a little bit too, you know, like we're creating so much, and there is a sort of like a bit of an improvised nature to how we're creating things, or sort of getting to the end of like this massive body of stuff that we have to build. And I don't know. I wonder if that sort of leaks over, you know, because we have our own sort of like frantic journey of creating all this stuff. It doesn't have the same, even though I think our production level is high, it doesn't have the same like polished sort of quality that like a whatever a Star Wars model or something will have. You know, it has a very like a bit of a homespun, like you can see fingerprints and hairs and things. Sometimes it has this sort of like crafted quality. I don't know. It's a thing I think about, is like, I wonder if that is an aspect of the charm of it, you know?
Yeah, but I mean, I talked to Kelsey about this. That I don't know if you saw, there were like two people just fully in Brennan cosplays at New York City Comic Con, and one of them had like a Crown of Candy like DM screen as part of their thing, and it looked really close to what the actual like
Let me
DM
tell you,
screen looked like.
I whoever made that, awesome, and kudos to you. But I zoomed in on that picture, and I'm positive that they used some of the same models, kits that we used to make both the Egg Fort Academy and the Crown of Candy spires, the towers and stuff. Like whoever that person is, they did their homework and sort of figured out how we build that stuff, which is mind blowing.
Yeah, which I think also like speaks to that, like you can see the fingerprints of like this is like, I'm not going to build the Berdel at home, but I can see how I could build the
Hmm.
Berdel at
Yeah,
home. Like I
yeah,
understand that, like if you've taken these kits, you've smashed them together. Maybe not in the bear case, but in some of the more regular mini making cases, makes it
totally.
feel, yeah, like a
Accessible in
partial.
some way.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing. Like Carlos and I have talked about this, about how you know, part of the joy of our show is like with when you're thinking about the production elements, like the miniatures and the projections and all the sound and illustration, is that it's sort of like how you would want your home game to be, and you might be able to actually do it if you had the time and the money, the bandwidth to do it, but you kind of can't. So it's like this. thing that's both accessible and not accessible at the same time, in this strange way. I don't know. It's very interesting to think about what it is that makes it work.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it allows that. Yeah, that like. Well, I could now. I would love to do this, but I don't have that like time, skill, everything. But seeing someone do the thing that I wish I could, but also like in that same vein of like, well, I could set, an Egg Fort Academy, like you know campaign like that is everything then becomes more accessible of like
Hmm.
I could use the world of from what I understand of it,
Hmm.
and as well as like here are the minis that in theory like well if I have thousands of dollars I could just buy, but like as well as like I could build
Hmm.
to sort of match that energy. um yeah, it feels very. It feels special. Everything about the show always feels very special. Every season feels special,
Well,
which
thank
is
you.
just also one of the reasons why, um, you know, I posted about this, that I was getting to do these series of interviews because, well, I reached out to you. And then Abria stitched one of my TikToks to yell at me that I had not made a like full bear reaction video. And like, so suddenly I was like, oh, I have a spotlight for a brief moment. Like, I'm going to ask everybody that like I can get a hold of to come talk about this because like that felt special. But it was a thing where I was like, man, in like a dream world, like I can talk to these folks like semi regularly because every season feels special. Like I feel like I could
Mm.
talk to you, like we've spent 40 minutes talking mostly about the bear
Hmm.
and a little bit outside of that, but like I could spend 40 minutes talking to you about, garbage disposals in the Ravening War or the rising
Hmm.
water of the sewer fight. Like all of those things feel so unique and special to that moment. And I know I've heard you talk about before, like when someone will ask you, what's your favorite thing that you've done? And your answer, every time I've heard you answer this question, is a thing that you haven't seen yet. Of like my favorite thing is the thing I'm currently working on,
Hmm.
and I think that also makes it feel really cool to us of
Hmm.
like you're continuing to build things on top of like things that you love, if that makes sense in any way.
Yeah. I mean, I think I have my kind of a creative philosophy that I have is that whatever the subject is that you're working with, or the world, whether it's a bear inside or a DM screen that's made of candy and other things, like you sort of have to find a way. At least I have to find a way to love it, and and what that means to me is. Part of it, I have a very curious brain, so part of it is like research and like trying to find things that are interesting about the subject to me, things that are like really interesting, and then those provide inspiration to create a thing. And so I just have to do that because I can't make something that's going to be good. It won't be good if I don't love what I'm making. And
Yeah,
so everything has to be special for all of us. I think that is the secret, is like we have to, and maybe it starts out as something like, well, maybe I'm not that interested in, uh, you know, uh, I'm thinking of, Mice and Murder, the, Frog and Toad, or
yes, yeah, yeah,
that type of like, okay, I'm not that, but let me like do some
and
research and find out.
anthropomorphic animal
Yeah,
thing.
or
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of the Wind in the Willows. So
Oh,
like Wind in the Willows, for instance, like not particularly one of my favorite genres of stories, and or whatever. Not that I hate it or anything, but it just wasn't interesting. So then I like, well, let me find out, like, where did these stories come from? Why were they making these stories? It's clearly like it was a certain period of time, like, oh, actually, this is a reaction to industrial revolution, and people were looking romantically at this sort of imagined pastoral past. Like, that's really interesting. So it's like I find an angle, and then I can have a passion to create the thing. And anyway, I don't know. I like to think that maybe that is part of our special sauce or whatever, is that we all are kind of doing that and trying to find a way to sort of be really excited about the things that we're making.
Yeah, I mean, it is certainly paid off. I know we all as like a community are so excited because Fantasy High, obviously where a lot of us started, and not that the production levels weren't incredible at Fantasy High freshman year. But boy, are we looking forward to the growth that D20 has had going into junior year. And I'm sure like getting to return to that world, since like you didn't really get to do anything for sophomore year,
Yep.
must feel really great. And I won't ask you anything about it, although I am really hoping we finally have a Galir Faith mini that like exists. But yeah, I know we're all really excited to see that explosion of progress of like what the dome can even do, let alone like what you all can do at the table.
Yeah. No, I mean it is a thing. Also, I don't know if folks have really talked about this, but this dome that Burrows Inn takes place in is a completely new dome. It's a new dome. So that was the first season we did that, which we also did for Fantasy High, which has better projections and
Mhm.
better lights and um, but yeah, I think. First of all, I think the rest of Burrow's End is going to be very exciting for people who like all this production stuff, value stuff, and I think that people are going to be very, very happy and excited with junior year. So
Yeah,
I
I'm
won't say any more than that, but look
yeah,
forward to seeing the reactions to that stuff.
I'm sure I will be frantically being like, "Oh, can you come back?"
Yes, I will
Uh,
definitely come back anytime.
Wonderful. Yeah, that makes me so happy. Yeah, I had been emailing with Casey, and they had suggested they're like, "Is this going to be like a one-on-one or like a roundup?" And I was like, or like a round table, and I was like, "Oh, could I do a round table?
Oh,
Like,
that'd
could
be
I
really
get
fun.
to get like Shane and
Yeah.
Casey and you and Raven and Kelsey and anyone else, just like the more the merrier, and I'll just sit back and just smile as you all tell stories about building."
Yeah,
Um,
that would be really fun because I think, often we get kind of siloed in our own little projects and
mhm.
we miss certain things, or maybe even, to be honest, we make a lot of stuff and sometimes we don't always remember everything. And so it's like, hearing someone else is like, oh, and then there was that thing, and it's like, oh yeah, that was a nightmare or whatever. That sounds really fun. I'd love to do
Great.
that.
Awesome. Well, holding you to it, Rick Perry, thank you so much for coming to chat with me today. If people want to follow you, is it Richard H. Perry? Is that what you're using
Yes.
on social
Yeah, yeah.
media? To,
Thank you so
uh,
much for having me. This was honestly a hoot to talk to you. And yeah, and if people want to follow me, I'm at Richard H. Perry on Twitter and Instagram.
Perfect. Yeah, and go see. We're all anxiously awaiting the emotional damage, both from the players and the sets, for the rest of Bros End, and then can't wait to see Junior Year. Thank you so much for joining me.
My pleasure. Thank you.